Hello everyone, my name is Cubic and welcome back to yet another video on my channel. Today I'm going to give a little progress update of my own city that I've been building for a few years called Bessemer City. A quick reminder, if you do end up enjoying the video, please go ahead and consider subscribing to the channel because I want to see if I can get to 20 subscribers by the end of October. Anyways, without further delay, let's get into the video. Since the last video on my city, which was the tour of one of the newest skyscrapers in the city center called Saturn Enterprises, I've taken up the task of modernizing the entire downtown area of the city and trying to make it look more realistic and lively. I definitely have a long way to go since I have about a dozen city blocks I need to fill in somehow before the next update, and I still haven't gotten around to filling in the interiors of most of the older skyscrapers of the city, but I have gotten around to completing several of the more prominent buildings that have already been constructed. We'll check those out soon. If you have watched any of the previous videos that I've done in the city, you may notice that I have changed around the material used as the main sidewalk and street. Previously, it was those light tan tiles that consisted of the sidewalk, and the streets themselves were made of cyan terracotta, making a light gray color. This change was my very first change I made to the city following the release of the 2.0 update in late March earlier this year. I replaced the sidewalk with stone bricks and cracked stone bricks, which I feel is a much better combination to use than the quartz tiles that I have been using in this specific update since December last year, and before that smooth stone, which I think had too much of a border for what I was going for at the time, which was a seamless transition between the street level and the buildings themselves. I think the street level is definitely still a work in progress overall, as they really need to go back and fix all the little details, make the city feel more alive and less stagnant and empty, such as piles of garbage and alleyways and gutters, and maybe I can make a texture to represent puddles or grime. As for the streets, I still have yet to add cars in proper street side stuff. As for the streets, I still have yet to add cars and proper street side parking, as I unfortunately forgot to add those into the streets when I was originally revamping the entire map beginning December last year. I somehow remembered to add gutters through in some parts of the town, so at least I did that. Moving on from the streets, let's go ahead and check out some of the building interiors that I've integrated into a few of the older buildings since the release of the update. Let's go ahead and begin with the largest building transformation so far, which is the Ion Center. In case you haven't noticed, this building is directly based off of the design of the IDS Center in downtown Minneapolis, Minnesota, which was completed in 1972. It is currently one of the tallest buildings in the city, but before now it was completely empty of interior for about 3 years, until this June, I think. I started off by adding a sort of plaza surrounding the building on the outside, complete with trees in a grid pattern in order to give shade to anyone hanging out there. I used this distinct grid pattern in order to provide a good transition from the road. Moving into the building itself, we are met with a rather large open lobby surrounding the building's core and elevator shaft in the center. I've tried to keep the main lobby and the design of the floor as open plan as possible in order to take advantage of the wraparound windows that make up each floor design of the building. This building is centered around business and commerce, so you have a lot of seating and 2 lounges on the other side of the floor. You also have 2 check-in desks just for symmetry. Every floor above the lobby is the exact same layout with very similar furnishings, so let's go ahead and check it out. So like I said, it has the same exact layout and very similar furnishings to the lobby, with the only major exception being the addition of several cubicles on either side of the core, since, of course, this is an office building. You also have 2 lounges and check-in desks on the other end of the floor, as before. Aside from that, that's all there is to see for this building, so let's go ahead and continue on with the progress tour. Moving on, we are now a few city blocks down from where we just were, in the westernmost point of downtown as of right now. Right over there, we have the first park in the entire city. This one's a pretty small one, just meant to be a nice place for residents to hang out or sit by the pond. We have a plus shape of paths, which all meet in the center, with a nice little fountain in the middle. It is also walled in order to give the park goers sound deafening and separation from the traffic moving in the streets around it. Moving back east from here, we have an American football stadium. If you ever played the 0.1.0 and 1.0 versions of this map, then you will of course recognize this stadium, as this was the exact one from that version, just moved here. You may also notice that the structure wasn't in the 2.0 release of the city, and that's because I was currently planning to put this in the block where the convention center is currently, However, my co-builder thought it would be a better spot to put the convention center in, beside that skyscraper over there, so the stadium was never properly integrated into the downtown in the span of time I had available to release that update. But thankfully, I had a good enough spot for it, and now here it is. Right behind it, we have probably one of the largest structures in the city, the future City Hall. Now, keep in mind that this building is a heavy work in progress, and I plan to redesign it very soon, as well as working on a proper interior because, as you can see, it is currently lacking one, and is just a huge empty space. Funny thing, although it doesn't appear like it because of the way that this was originally designed, as this is a direct take of the Stalinist architecture of the former Soviet Union, but this is actually the very tallest building in the city, reaching all the way up to the current 1.17 height limit of Y256. But then again, I do plan to greatly change up the design in order to better fit the surroundings, because it is definitely out of place with its absurd height. Right past that though is the newest district of the city called Uptown. This is the more upscale and greatly gentrified part of the city, and it will have a lot of mid-rise buildings, older 1900 style lower buildings, sort of like you see right under me right now. There are also going to be a lot of bars, restaurants, and discotheques in this part, which I am really looking forward to getting started on. Of course, this area will be a ton of work, and it already has, only having just a couple blocks completed. The thing that I worked on first in this part is the new highway extension for Interstate 67, which is beginning to curve around and eventually through one of the poorer, more industrial districts. That is also soon to come next year. In the empty spaces around here, I do plan to add more residential mid-rises and small stores scattered around, with maybe a park or playground to add a bit of greenery and life into the city. I'm thinking of adding just a couple more high-rises closer to the older downtown part, just to blend in the transition better between the two areas. I'm going to add maybe one or two under construction mid-rises to the area too, just to put an emphasis on the realism, as well as the ongoing development and gentrification that is taking place here. But sadly, that is all that I have time for today. And again, please leave a like if you liked it, share if you really liked it, and also be sure to subscribe on your way out, since I'm trying to reach 20 subscribers before the end of next month. Anyways, that's enough from me. Have a nice day.